going to start with exponential. Okay, also done. All right, you know what? We're going to start with exponential functions. If you guys are smashing it, I will go to old exam questions about functions because I know students, there's always many layers. But let's start with the planned material. So the basic exponential function has this standard form, and there are a couple of limitations. The one thing is that you can't have a negative number as the base with an exponential function. And then just in terms of what things do here, the b kind of determines whether it's increasing or decreasing. The q affects the vertical, like up or down. It shifts it up or down. The plus p will shift it left and right. And then the a value kind of just affects the steepness of the exponential function. And we have two main types of exponential functions. If the a value is greater than 1, then we would say it's an increasing exponential function. It's almost like it's taking off. Where sorry, not the a value. In this case, it would be the b value because it's this thing here. If the b value is greater than 0 but less than 1, then the exponential function will look like this, and it's what we call a decreasing exponential function. And I sometimes say it's like a plane coming in for landing. As x gets bigger, y gets smaller. Now, the other thing that an exponential function has is it has asymptotes on the horizontal axis. But what happens is if we have to sketch the function of y equals 2 to the x minus 1, this would look a lot like this, except the whole thing would have to move down. So, and the asymptote that used to be at y equals 0 would now be at y equals 1. So let me draw that graph just so you have, I suspect you've probably done this already, but I just want to make sure. So y equals minus 1. And now the graph is actually going to look like that. And so it's actually going to have an intercept. Now, I think I assumed it would be 0, but let's just check. To find the y-intercept, you make x naught. And I've made x naught there, so I get 1 minus 1, and I get 0. So it is, in fact, a 0 there. And then I would label the function. Give me a score out of 10 for how well you understand that drawing of an exponential function. Give me a score out of 10 for how well you understand that. Okay. Okay. Well, let's look at a slightly more detail-oriented exponential function to draw. So this is going to be drawing the exponential function k. And what I like to do for my exponential functions is I put them into two steps. The first step is the asymptote. So what is the asymptote for the function? And then the second step is just to find the intercepts. And the intercepts follow the same rules that we normally do. So could you please find me the asymptote and intercepts for this function? Once I see that you can do that, I will draw it with you and we can go from there. And also you need to think, is this an increasing or decreasing exponential function? Is it going to be taking off or is it going to be coming in for landing? I want you to think about that. Then put your answers in the chat as we go. So I get -3.5 for my y-intercept. That wasn't too bad, but now finding the x-intercept, I'm going to give you a bit more time. What did you get for that? So the trick is going to be figuring out how to deal with this. What should I do to solve this equation? There's a key step I need to follow. Yep, that is the key. Thank you, Rita. This is to realize that you need to make the bases the same. And then if that happens, you should get that x is 3. So you've done all your hard work now. Now the question is, how do you draw the graph and what shape is it? So step one is you obviously have to have a Cartesian plane. And I like to put the asymptote down first because it gives me some sort of definition of where things are going to be. Then I take the dot, so I take -3.5 y-intercept is going to be here, approximately. And then the x-intercept is going to be at 3, which is going to be, let's say, over here. I know this is an increasing exponential function because the 2 is greater, that value is greater than 1, which means it's almost like a plane taking off. And so my exponential function is going to look like that. I do need to label the values. So I'm going to label that. And I'm going to label this. And I need to label the equation of the function, which is k. And that's it. Give me a score of 10 for how easily you could do that. I want a little bit of a sense of how easy that was. Can I go straight to a more difficult one than that, or should we do another one like that? Is the question I'm thinking about. Okay. Well, I tell you what, let's then do another one just to make sure we understand it. And then if we understand it well, it'll go very quickly. So next question is, I want you to sketch the exponential function like this. And I want you to, you can maybe use the method I showed you or a method that you used already, but draw me the graph of that. And then once you're done, just say done in the chat. And if you have questions, just ask a question in the chat and I'll answer. We'll see what you got. Think about the asymptotes, think about all those types of things. Oh, flip, sorry guys, I made the thing run away. Okay, just let me know done when you are done, and I'll share the answer with you. So if we look at the perfect answer, you should have got your y asymptote, or your horizontal asymptote is -9. And then we find the x and y intercepts, and then it was an increasing function, so it looks like that. That's it. Okay, now what we can do is, instead of giving you, I can give you one that looks a little bit stranger. So let's go with this one. Next, I want you to sketch the exponential function k, which is in this one over here. And I'm not going to say too much unless I get questions, because I think probably you can handle this. But again, you're not alone. If you have questions, please do let me know in the chat, or even you can audibly talk to me. If you just turn your mic on, you can talk to me as well. But see if you can sketch that. See if you notice what's different compared to the other ones and what's the same. So let me know in the chat when you are done. And I will reveal the answer. Look, don't be afraid to also to ask any questions or comments if you. Okay, are you guys, do you need help or are you done? Just let me know in the chat if you're done. Okay, so let's have a look at the answer here. Now, what's different about this exponential function is that because this is a half, this function itself is decreasing. But before we even do that, what I would have done is I would have first done this one, okay? And then I would have worked out my intercepts. So I worked out that, and I also worked out what that was, and then I could draw through that. What was a bit tricky was figuring out the x-intercept, where I had to change that to 2 to the 3 and change the half to 2 to the minus 1. And what a lot of students would have got wrong, I can guarantee they would have got this wrong, is they wouldn't have multiplied the minus 1 to both of these. So to get the minus x plus 2, a lot of students would have gone wrong there. So do you understand why this ends up being 2 to the minus x plus 2? A lot of students get caught up by that sort of stuff. So I just want to make you aware of that. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay. Well, then you know what? I think we have sketched enough exponential functions. I think it's time to ask ourselves, how do we find the equation of an exponential function? So here is a piece of an old exam, and it says you are given an exponential function, and it's a very simple one. It's just f of x equals k to the x, but it says there are 2 points, 0 and 1, and 2, 9/4, or b, a and b, that are on the graph. Can you find me the equation of this exponential function? And I want to ask you guys, where should I even start with this if I want to find the equation of this exponential function? Yep. So exactly that. Now, there are 2 points. There's the point 0, 1, and there is the point 2, 9/4. The problem is, if I sub in this one, anything to the power of 0 is 1. And so this point can't help us. So I actually have to sub in that point. So what I want you to do is I want you to sub that point in. You won't be able to use 0, 1 because 0, 1 will kind of destroy the k. And I want you to try and find what k value you would get. Oh, I've done it wrong. Oopsie daisy. So if I sub that in, now I need to figure out what k is. What is k going to be? Well, to get k by itself, I'm going to have to square root both sides. Now, here's the thing. Even though the equation could be plus or minus 3/2, there's a restriction. This value, the base value, has to be greater than 0. And so because it has to be greater than 0, the answer can only be k is 3 over 2. And the equation of my exponential function will be 3 over 2 to the power of x. Perfect, 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 perfect. Okay. Let's go to a slightly harder variation of this question. Now, this is from another little worksheet here. Let me just get rid of this. This doesn't stay on the screen. Oh, it's hanging around. Let's move it a bit. So if we look at this little worksheet, its goal is to say, find the equation of the following graphs. Now, I am particularly interested in the exponential ones. So B over here is one that's an exponential, G and J. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do B. And then after I've done that, I'm going to ask you to then use that as a guiding principle to do the other one. So I'm given the following exponential graph as its basic structure. It says it goes through the points 0, 2, so 0, 2, and it goes through the point -2, -1. In order to find the equation of this exponential function, I'm really going to have to find A, and I'm also going to have to find Q. And the way I'm going to get it is by subbing these points in. Now, the easiest one to me looks like the 0, 2. So I'm going to start there. And I get 2 is equal to A 0 plus 2 plus, what am I going to get? A is 0 plus 2 plus Q. Is that correct? Let's have a look. A is 0 plus 2. No, no, that is correct. All right. So now what I want to do is I'm going to say, look, this is like that. Give me a thumbs up if you followed that so far. Okay. Now, obviously, I need to get another equation in these unknowns. And so the other point that I can use is this one. So this one is going to be -1 equals A, and then it's going to be, let me zoom in a bit so I can see my, oh, is it not working? X plus 2. So this is going to be X plus 2, but where the X is, I'm going to get -2 plus 2, and then this is going to be plus Q. Okay. Now, this is a bit more interesting than the first one. The first one over here has A's and Q's in. This one, ooh, this is getting good. Okay, now, why is the green one so helpful? Why is the green one so helpful? Well, anything to the power of 0 is 1. So what is Q going to be in this particular one? Yes, Rita, exactly. You've got it. So what is Q going to be? Yeah, so if I bring it across, Q is going to be -2. So now if we go back to the very beginning, well, not even the very beginning, we can take that value and we go 2 is equal to -2 squared plus Q. Then we go 2 is 4 plus Q. Oh, wait, no, sorry, I'm taking out the wrong thing. I should have put the -2 for the Q in. So I'm going to reuse the -2 over here, which is the Q value. And then I'm going to get, we are going to get, what is I'm having a moment here. Let's have a look. So if I know that y is equal to, oh, I can reuse this. Sorry, I can reuse the black equation. So I'm going to say 2 is equal to a squared, and then I'm going to have minus 2 because I know what q is. I worked out that q was minus 2. And so where there's a q, I'm now putting a minus 2. Then I'm going to bring the 2 across, and I get 4 equals a squared. What is a then going to have to be? Yeah, so a is 2. So what is the equation of this exponential function? It is going to be, let's have a look, 2, because that was a, to the x plus 2 minus 2. And so that is going to be the equation of the exponential function in this one. Did that make sense? Did it not make sense? Was it somewhere in the middle? How did you find that one? Before we take a break, let's give you a chance to have a crack at this, and then we'll take a little break. So I want you to try and do this one. It says an exponential graph. I'll even draw it for you. So you've got an exponential graph, and what they've said is it has that format. They tell you it goes through the points 2, 4 and the point 4, 12. Can you find me the equation of this exponential function over there? Over to you, and just ask a question if you need to. Yeah. Okay, this is actually quite a tricky one. How's it going so far? Okay, but don't worry, this is probably, can you see where it says here, it says C? That means it's a complex one. Okay, so we know that we've got this stuff here. So, oh wait, I've made a mistake. So I'm also concentrate here. So 412 would be 4 plus P, and it would be like that. Now, I have to get rid of something in order to make this work. Okay, so what I'm thinking is these are two equations. What if I subtracted the one from the other? So how would that even work? Well, can you see that if I subtract Q from Q, what am I going to get? What's Q minus Q? No, actually, you know what? I tell you what, let's not do that. Let's divide them. What's Q divided by Q? What's Q divided by Q? And I'll explain now why. Okay, 1. We're happy. Okay, now, what is this one divided by this one? It's just going to be 3 to the 2p over 3 to the 4p. A little bit strange at the moment, but anyway. What is 4 over 12 going to be the same as? What's 4 over 12 the same as? Okay, 1 over 3. Okay, so let's see what we can do here. If I use the laws of exponents, then I would get that. So I'm going to have my third over here, and I'm just going to block it off for this moment. Then I've got a plus 1 sitting over here. Okay, now we've got 2 plus P minus 4 minus P. And then I've got a third. Ooh, okay. I've made this all disappear, which is no good. But what is interesting is the P went away when I divided it. Let's just have a look. Plus 1. And let's see. Now, the problem is, if I knock out all the P's, I'm going to have no variable left, which isn't going to be very helpful, is it? This really is a bit of a tricky one. I think we're going to move on from this for now, because I don't want to take too much time. I'd rather come back in the next lesson to show you the answer. But there's definitely, it's not easy to know where to get the Q from. If I subtract those two, okay, let me try one other thing, but I don't want to waste your time. So if I don't divide them, I initially thought I could divide them, but instead I'm going to subtract them. So let me subtract. If I go 4 minus 12, and then I go for this one, I go 3 to the 2p minus 3 to the 4 plus p, and then q minus q is 0. Now, I've done that very quickly, but can you follow me, Rita, with what I did there, where I was subtracting the things over here that I did? So 4 minus 12 is the minus 8 over here. This minus this, and then this minus this. Just give me a yes or no if you could follow that. Okay, fantastic. Now, minus 8 equals, now this is the sneaky bit that I think is super sneaky. Do you understand how I got that? Or maybe I should make an extra step here, where I go 3 to the p, and then I go 3 squared. Okay, let me just write it like this. Minus 3 to the 4 times 3 to the p. And what I'm trying to show you is I'm trying to take out that 3 to the p there. So just give me a yes or no if you followed that one. So just a yes or no if you followed that one. So then this is going to be 9 minus 81. And that's going to be minus 8. And then what is 9 minus 81? It's going to be minus 72. Then minus 8 over minus 72 is equal to this. And that's going to be positive. Now, what is 8 over 72? It's going to be 1 over 9. So I'm going to slow down for a second. This minus 72 comes across. And the 3 to the p is still here. And I'll even draw another line just to, we've got 1 over 9 equals 3 to the p. What do you think I'm going to do to try and solve for p next? What do you think I'm going to try and do next? What about 1 over 9 looks familiar to you? Yes, well done, Rita. This is a properly hard question. So p is minus 2. Oh my goodness, look how much work we have to do for that. Now, the good news is, because we know p is minus 2, we can go back to the original one here, where we had the relationship. And I'm just going to use one of them. And we have said, oh, so that was that. But now p is minus 2. Now, if p is minus 2, let's get rid of that. If p is minus 2, what is q going to be in this question? Because you found that p was minus 2. That was all the hard work over there. What is the q going to be? Yeah, so q is going to be 3. Oh my goodness gracious, what a mission. So what is the final equation of this exponential? It's going to be 3 to the x minus 2, and then this is going to be plus 3. So let's just do a little recap. How did I get around this rather difficult question? Step 1 was to sub these points into the equation and get 2 equations. Then what I did was I subtracted the 2 equations to help me find what p was, and then I put it back into the original to help me from there. Okay, that was a properly different question. So I think let's go look at another past exam question to show you how hard that really was, because past exam questions aren't generally that hard from what I've seen. Any questions or comments before I move on, Rita? Okay. Then let us look at this past exam type question here. This will be the last thing we'll do today. Oh, you absolutely may take a screenshot. Yeah. Okay, let me move this out the way. Also, there will be the recording that you can look at, but let's, like I said, I don't want you to get too big a fright on this because it is a properly, yeah. So there was the original bit, and then go from there. Okay, so let's have a look at this one. This one is a past exam question, and it says the diagram represents 2 types of functions. This one and this one. What are the 2 functions that they are dealing with in this question? Parabola and exponential, absolutely perfect. This is the parabola, that's the exponential. Okay, I want you to find me OE, which is this distance here, And I also want you to find me OD, which is this distance over here. So go ahead and find those two using the equations that are on the screen. And then, don't be afraid to ask any questions if you have any. Yeah, I'm also happy to adapt. Let's find those two. So I actually need to find what the x-intercept is. And in order to do that, I need to solve that for A. So I'll wait until you've had a chance to do that. And then for B, I need to find the y-intercept of the exponential, which is going to be solving that really. Okay, so let's see what we get for this one here. If I bring that across, oh, but I can bring the negative across as well. So then I get 4 equals x minus 2 squared. Then I can square root both sides. But now I could have 2 equals x minus 2, or I could get that. In which case, x would be 4, or x would be 0. What do you think the length of OE is, based on that calculation that I've just done? Yeah, it has to be 4, because this is the 0, this is the 4, so it's 4 units. And OD is going to be very similar. It's just going to be the 0 there, but that's going to be 2 minus 4, so that's minus 2. Now, when we express distance, there's actually no negative, so this would also just be 2 units. So it's going to be 2 units. Even though it's minus 2 is where it cuts, OD would be 2 units. Okay, find me OC, which is that distance there, that little bit. So find me what OC is, and find me what BC is. And BC is this vertical distance here. See if you can find those two. My working says that is 1 unit. So it's just 1 unit. And what about BC? Okay. Well, if you know that that is 1, so you just worked out that C is the point 1 or the point 1, 0. You can use that to help you find what BC is. Now, B is on the, so what you really want is you want the f of 1 minus the g of 1, but you know that the g of 1 is actually just 0 because you can see it. When you put 1 in, you get 0. So really, you want to figure out what the f of 1 is. What is the value of the function f when x is 1? And to do that, all I need to do is evaluate that. And what do you get when you evaluate the f of 1? One minus 2 is minus 1. Minus 1 squared is 1. Minus 1 plus 4. I get 3. Did you get 3, Rita? So 1 squared, and there's a minus in front. Minus 1 plus 4 is 3. Perfect. So this thing over here is 3 units. Okay, last one. FG. Where is FG? I don't even see an F. I wonder if that's a typo. Oh, no, there it is at the bottom. It's hiding. Okay, so FG. Now, what I do see is it's on the asymptote of this thing here. So this is the line y equals minus 4. Now, what I want to do is I want to work backwards and know what x value goes with minus 4 over here, and what x value goes with minus 4 over here, and then I can find the distance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this exponential function, and I'm going to make it equal to minus 4. And that is going to find me these 2 points over here. So how would I solve that? Well, let me start by bringing across a 4, so I get minus like that. And then I get positive 8, thankfully. And now I have to square root both sides. And I'm going to get plus minus the square root of 8. Now, those two answers are going to become x is 2 plus square root 8, and x is 2 minus square root 8. Give me a thumbs up if you followed that I did there. So I basically said, where is this straight line going to meet this blue graph? And I've got these two answers for my thing. The one is going to be this one over here. The x is going to be 2 plus root 8. And then over here, I'm going to get 2 minus root 8. Can you guys and girls find me what FG is going to be? What is the distance FG or GF going to be? So it's not going to be a nice, neat answer. Root 8 would be about 2.9 something, and so on. But it's going to be 2 root 8, or there's going to be 2 root 8s that you have to add together in order to get the distance from here. So this distance here will be 2 root 8, which will be approximately like 5.9 something, somewhere around there. Okay.